Hey, what's up everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so since we've talked about this topic on this channel a couple of times, I figured I would kind of follow up since there's some new news floating around. This is not official. I didn't get this from official sources, so take that for what it's worth, but you'll see the news soon enough because it's floating. Chris Rock has hired a legal team, allegedly, it has been said. And he's, with the intentions of possibly suing Will and the Oscars, or however that goes. I just wanted to respond to that because I had a pretty strong opinion about everything when it first happened. My opinion was that it was an important image for all of us to see. I took a different direction than a lot of people because even though I don't want to see those legends act out in that place, I do think it's important that more emphasis be placed on husbands sticking up for their wives, and even more so black men sticking up for black women in the presence of anyone around, whether it be in this place or that place. There needs to be a loud cry to support anyone who feels that they haven't been supported, I think. And I think that black women have been screaming for a while that they haven't felt protected and they haven't felt supported in a lot of different ways, and I'm listening, and I felt like that was an image that could kind of lend itself to that. But unfortunately, the way it was presented to the world and the way it looked, that's just not what it gave overall, and over time, looking back on it, that's not what we ended up taking from it, unfortunately. And then you start finding out about Chris Rock's history, and his concerns and his conditions and things of that nature that make it even more egregious for someone to get on stage and put hands on him. And then you listen to his brother, Tony Rock, and you see how the family's handling it, and you see how hurt Tony Rock appeared, thinking about somebody touching their brother. And then I think about my little brother, you know what I mean? And I have brothers, and some of them can handle themselves, and some of them need to be protected. And I would feel very, very upset if anyone, Will Smith or Joe Smith, put their hands on my little brothers or my family in any way. So I understand different angles, and I definitely, even that night, understood that Chris Rock wasn't the person who actually deserved to hit. It was the person who wrote the joke. And I think that Will Smith, when you give some more time to think about it, there's a different way of looking at it than I provided out over time. I think Will Smith, looking back on it, I think he would have loved to not do that. I said that he was thinking of his kids and how his kids would be proud of him. And then I've thought a little further, and I've seen Jaden's response to it. And Jaden was like, that's how we get down. And I realized, nah, that's not the response you want from your son after you make a mistake like that. You want your son to support you, but you don't want him to think that's what he needs to be doing. You don't want Jaden thinking he needs to do that. You don't want him thinking that that's the move. And Jaden's a grown man; he knows better. But what I'm saying is, if I'm a father and I do something like that, and then my son goes on social media for the world to say, "Yeah, that's how we get down," I failed. And that's where my heart went after looking at it over time. So it's just a lot of stuff I want to come back around and say that's balanced to understand. Wow, my point of view that night still stands. I think black women need to be protected. I think that you need to protect people wherever you are. I think that if a man decides he wants to act out in public, you can get back at him in public. There's a lot of different things that I was raised in the mindset of that may not work in every setting, and in that setting it does not. But I think at the end of the day, Will Smith, looking at his energy as he was walking on that stage, he was a dangerous man there, and it's tricky because he's an actor. So an actor can summon up energy that may not necessarily be real just for the sake of entertaining. So it's not like watching an authentic person in their behavior and their body language and thinking that that's real. With Will Smith, for all I know, he just got in character, and he won the Oscar that night, so he can do it. Hell, I could argue that probably he was in character. You could argue that he was going through some psychosis that has to do with being too deep into a character that he's probably playing right now. There's a lot of different things that history has shown us could be possible and what we've seen in the behavior of Will Smith. But one thing I can say is if you just remove the idea that he's an actor, you remove all that, and you just look at his body language as he's walking on that stage, I'm glad he didn't have a gun. I am. I'm very glad he didn't have a gun. And it's one of those situations where you gotta be honest. It's like, nothing has happened until it has. You know what I mean? Like, everything is the first time for everything. You don't want the first time a superstar walks on stage and shoots another superstar to occur. And I think we got mighty close to that. I think something scary like that was very possible right there. I think our man Will Smith might have been literally unhinged in a real way after watching that footage as much as I have, after hearing and seeing and all of that. It was not as innocent, protecting his wife type of deal as I felt when I watched it initially. I don't feel that way no more. Now I just feel like, while I still feel strongly about him protecting his wife, I don't think he did it in a way that he could be proud of. I don't think he did it in a way that firmly represented who he should have been angry at. And I don't think Chris Rock is out of bounds for taking action. I didn't think he should press charges, and he didn't. But suing is an entirely different story. I may not want you to go to jail, but you're gonna have to compensate me for embarrassing me. And not only that, but somebody else mentioned in this, and I wish I would have remembered who it was, but it was very important. This person said it. It's real. Out of all of the accomplishments these two individuals have had, and they are legends of the highest order in that business, this is going to be the first thing that gets mentioned about their name. It ain't going to be Fresh Prince. It ain't going to be Independence Day. It ain't going to be Pursuit of Happiness. It ain't going to be Chris Rock specials. It ain't going to be Everybody Hates Chris. It ain't going to be the HBO specials. None of that. It's going to be this. And while I could say it's Chris Rock's fault for ultimately allowing himself to utter that joke, which he knew he shouldn't have, especially what took place at 16, he got to own that. Sir, you got to own that. At the end of the day, did he write the jokes? Did he okay the jokes? Does Will Smith know who? He knows who wrote the jokes. He knows who okayed the jokes. So that's who you need to be taking your energy out on, man. That spectacle right there, that was not harmless. And as a performer, you can, as I said in the video, it can kind of get blurred. They can get in some kind of weird kind of psychosis where they think they're a character they used to be. But when you're accepting an Oscar, you know what I mean? You are definitely not supposed to be attacking anybody, to say the least. And then when you're representing the character that he did, Mr. Williams, you know what I mean? And this is what kind of lended itself for me thinking, okay, Will's a little out. He's a little detached. He got on stage and thought Mr. Williams was going to co-sign that. So Will didn't understand the magnitude of the display and how egregious what he did in the moment actually was. That's a detachment. You see what I'm saying? There's something off there. A man who has so much to lose is going to understand the magnitude of what a moment like that is going to mean and why it's important to never do it. I listened to Jim Carrey's response to it. I didn't love Jim Carrey's response. I felt like his was a bit extra, to be honest. I think he was on the right track, but I personally think he took it further, and I got different energy from that other than just being upset about what he saw. That's what I took from Jim Carrey's response to the situation. But all in all, it still remains the same. His point of view is similar to mine in the sense that you just can't do that. You have to know that the screaming after slapping a man is what ruined everything. I hate to tell him, but he could have got away with just slapping him sitting down, because Chris Rock was playing it off. He was playing it off. Will Smith just slapped me. Okay. And he would have kept going, but Will Smith had, in his space of mind where he was at, just had to blurt. And I just think ultimately all of that came down to just being something that Chris Rock is going to have as a stain on his career. And because of that, the lawsuit, I'm on board. Because he shouldn't have to suffer the stain of something that ultimately was not his choice. It wasn't his choice to write that joke, and it wasn't his choice to say it. He didn't pay himself for being on that stage. And You know, Will Smith just was completely out of himself, man. He snapped. I'm just gonna call it like it is. He snapped. He snapped in a real way, and I think that now it's time for him to go get some real healing. I don't personally have an opinion about how he handles his entertainment, but I don't think it's the time to be going on table talk. I don't think that. I think it's time to get some serious help for some long time issues. And I was listening to something else. Speaking of table talk, I watched the table talk after all this played out. Both of the ones that he did with his wife. The one before the announcement of the entanglement, and of course the entanglement video. And the one before the entanglement, he was saying something about his dad that stood out to me. He said his dad made a lot of good decisions. I'm paraphrasing, of course. He did a lot of different things. But it seemed like when he was in certain moments, he would be at his worst. It was like Will was describing, like he would make the dumbest decisions at the worst times. You know what I mean? That was what I took from what he was saying about his father. As great as his father was, and as great of a teacher and disciplinarian as his dad was, he tended to just like more or less crash out at the worst possible times. And then I sat there and I looked at that behavior and I'm like, wow, that's what's going on. He's dealing with his father's passing. And I know how that goes, because sometimes it takes this long to deal with it. Like, not to jump into somebody's head in psychology, but like, he lost his father around the same time I lost my mother, and I kind of went through it much later than actually going through it when she passed. And I just feel like that might be a little bit of what he's dealing with. Probably on top of whatever else is going on in his marriage and whatnot. A lot of people think he should divorce his wife. I don't have an opinion about that. That's their business. And the rumors around LA, if the rumors are true, it makes some things make sense about their circumstances. But they're not going to tell you those rumors are true to confirm all this LA nonsense. But put it like this. There's explanations for everything. If those rumors are true, it ties in some of the stuff that you're hearing about their family, and it's just okay. They have an agreement with themselves, and that's why life has gone the way it has, and they're still together. But at the end of the day, when you have to bring that to the forefront, and when you have to explain it to others, and you're not being as forthcoming with other aspects of it because it ain't nobody's business, then it's going to paint Will Smith to look a certain way. And while something may be okay, suddenly it can't be okay once you have to start dealing with it. And I think that's kind of what happened to their family, low-key. I think they were fine so long as they didn't have to deal with it in the public. Once it becomes a public issue, now it's an entirely different set of stresses. So that's how I'm looking at their situation. I just think they need to go back to being private. Some of that red table talk stuff, maybe they need to cut back on some of their own personal conversation. Because at the end of the day, people are focused on them, not for their art right now. It's for their stuff outside of in their business, in their household. And that's just not, I don't think that's going to help Will going forward. I don't think that's going to help him. That's what I have to say about that. So while we're talking about that, I heard the August Alsina song, where he's just basically capitalizing on the moment. And at the end of the song, he put a curse on him. I don't know if he was directly talking about the Smiths per se, but homie was putting curses on his enemies. I don't know. I had to say a prayer after listening to that. That was some bad energy. I don't know. But I know he's a scorned dude. He's upset. He feels he's been blackballed and all of that. And it's not entirely out of the question, man. You stepped on Hollywood's finest, brother. You can't jump in between them, cause all kind of chaos in their life, try to capitalize on that chaos, and think you're gonna get opportunities. They don't even have to make the call. It's gonna be the people who are making money off of them who are gonna make the call to shut you up. That's the thing. Jada and Will didn't have to do nothing, bro. they didn't have to do nothing. The system around them shut you down because you were a problem for that system. So while you putting curses on people, I would pray about that. I would pray about that, because the people who tried to help you through that situation with your health, and then you tried to come in between, sleep with the man's wife, and then try to, make it look crazy in the public, brother, that curse gonna backfire on your backside. And judging from the health issues that you've had, you shouldn't be playing with spirits like that. I'm just gonna put that in there right now. But so that's what I wanted to say, man. Chris Rock allegedly is gonna sue whomever he should sue in this situation. Maybe it's everybody, maybe it's just a few, but I support Chris Rock in that aspect of the situation, though I want him to hold accountability, and it seems like he has for the most part. He shouldn't have said that joke. You know, I would like him to come out and say a statement about that, though. I think that someone released a fake statement on his behalf that I wish actually came from him, because it was exactly what I want to hear from him. But ultimately, it ain't. He don't have to care. He don't have to have a heart for the Smiths. He don't have to be a good person. At the end of the day, he should not have been assaulted on camera. And for whatever that's worth, if you got a problem with a man, you got to see him. You see him out backstage. Y'all, millionaires, 100 millionaires. If you got to see that man face to face, y'all can arrange that. You don't have to do that on that stage in that moment. But I think that spoke to the psychology of the situation, and I think a lot of people have broken that down in ways that I don't even want to. But I do think Will Smith needs to go get some help, and I think he needs to remove himself from anything that would trigger him away from being stable at this point. And that's coming from somebody who's had a lot of mental health issues. He needs to take his mental health extremely seriously before he ruins his life. Straight up. That was crash out energy that I saw walking on that stage after studying it. And so yeah, that's what I want to say, man. I encourage everybody to go back and look at my own opinion. If I contradicted some of those opinions, it's because I see it differently. I studied, I thought about it, I've sat with it. But a lot of that stuff I still feel. You know, at the end of the day, Chris Rock, it starts with your mouth. It starts with you not fighting the people who told you to say that. You don't do that. If you put yourself in a position to stand against those bad jokes, this moment never takes place. It never happens. Now, Will may flip out in another way, which scares me even more so. I'm glad he flipped out in this way so we could all look at him and say, yo, get some help, bro. Rather than hearing about it happening in some domestic weird nonsense. But I think that's what we're dealing with. I really do. Suppression, man. When you're asked to be perfect for so long, and I mean perfect, and you're working constantly so you never get a chance to actually settle on handling certain things internally, you're going to wake up crazy one day. You're working too much. You're dealing with pressures. You got all this going on. You got that going on, whatever it may be. And you're not able to get it out. You got to pretend like it's all good, like I'm charismatic Will Smith, it's all great all the time. And he been at this since the 80s. He ain't been able to deal with certain stuff. That's what this shows me, that he has not gotten certain stuff out, and he ain't been able to acknowledge certain things or get certain aggression out or just challenge whatever needs to be challenged inside. That's what I take from him. So I hope he gets a chance to take the time to do that, man. Give yourself a couple years, bro. You've been working. You got all the money in the world. You done it. You did it. You got the best actor Oscar. Look, it's time to take care of Will Smith. The inside Will Smith, and then you can come back and be a better actor than you ever was before. Trust me on that, man. So I'm rooting for the Smith family. I'm rooting for everybody over there. I always want to acknowledge how dope of a person Jaden was for handling his part in the Flint water situation. Since we're talking about the Smith family, that's always something that comes to mind immediately. And how much of a champion he is for that area and for what he's trying to do with that crisis. That's still, until this very second, not handled. Somebody pay attention to Flint, please. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.